Every year on my birthday, I get a bunch of flowers as a reminder of the day I was born. After 9 years of anxiously waiting for a second baby to arrive, my parents were overjoyed when I was finally born. My older sister Sarah was no longer an only child. Straight away, my mom and I were surrounded by flowers in the hospital. The first to arrive, even before word had spread about my birth, was a beautiful bunch of pink roses. Dearest Emma, younger than springtime, hope you stay that way, with flowers strewn in your path. Always in the garden, I happily played with flowers, water, and worms as my mom looked on. Encircled by the sea, mountains, and sky of Cape Town I grew. When I was 2, my family grew yet again with the arrival of my sister Megan. When I was 3, we packed up our home by the sea and temporarily moved into a hotel until it was time to travel to a new country. My mom and dad were busy getting everything ready, but I had a cold that just wouldn't go away, and I needed to be taken to the doctor. The doctor frowned when he felt my big tummy. He sent me for tests and off to see another doctor. My mom still remembers how nobody told her what was going on. Instead, they paced up and down and whispered a lot. She knew something was terribly wrong with me. Later, a third doctor looked at the X-ray and ultrasound images and frowned. Finally, he told my mom that it looked very much like leukemia, cancer. Everyone was upset. My parents didn't know what to do. We were supposed to be leaving South Africa, but now I was sick. The doctors reassured my family that they would find good doctors in Brazil, and since everything was already packed, we had to say goodbye to Granny and Grandpa and the Oris man at the airport. My family and I flew off to Brazil with my test results in our hand luggage and a lot of uncertainty about my health. We arrived in a hot, humid place with giant plants and ants, and in no time our clothes were soaked with sweat. Everything felt and sounded different in our new home, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Soon after arriving, we were sent to see a cancer doctor whose office desk was piled high with papers. It was difficult for my mom to communicate confidently, as she didn't speak the Brazilian language, Portuguese. The doctor immediately explained to my mom that he needed to do a bone marrow test to confirm my diagnosis. She held me down on the examining table for the test. Sarah held Megan in the other room as they overheard my screams. When it was all over, my mom held me until I stopped crying. We left with my file, the paper folder now stained with a few drops of my blood, a marker of the ordeal we had all just endured. When the doctor looked under the microscope, there was no mistaking the Gaucher cells he saw. My parents were told through a translator that they need not worry anymore. I didn't have cancer, but rather a rare genetic disease called Gaucher. They didn't know about Gaucher, but upon hearing the news, they felt immediate relief. They were told there were no medicines available for my disease, but that I'd be carefully watched. Megan and I never missed a beat in our new home. We loved to dance to music all the time. Even though my big belly made it difficult to eat a big meal sometimes, in true Brazilian style, I posed in my favorite blue bikini. Shortly before my 6th birthday, warm pajamas had to be sewn and a winter coat borrowed. My mom and I were taking a trip to New York City. We would be visiting a hospital. In New York City, for the first time in my life, I watched snow falling from the sky, saw dinosaurs at a museum, and went inside an MRI machine. An MRI machine takes pictures of your insides. The dome ceiling comes very close to your face. There are lots of banging noises and you have to keep still for a long time and try not to cough. There were also lots of important doctors to see, and my mom held my hand the entire time. She tells me that at the time she felt very alone in the big hospital, not even knowing what questions to ask. But she did leave New York with a promise from the doctors that scientists were already working on treatments for my health problem. The next year, our whole family took a plane ride together to our new home, Canada. I was very sad to leave my friends, my teachers, and my nanny Eva. My mom promised that I'd get to see snow again in our new country. I started grade 2 at a new school. When I was 8, I visited the kids' hospital in Toronto for follow-up of my Gaucher disease. It was hard not to giggle and wiggle as they poked at my giant belly, trying to measure my liver and spleen. The doctor also took a look at my many bruises. One day at the Gaucher clinic, I was introduced to a boy my own age who had the same problem. He looked just like a regular boy. Over the years, my mom and I would return often to the hospital for my tests and checkups. During these visits, we always treated ourselves to special drinks and would sit under a sun umbrella, looking up at the animals dancing from above. When I was 10, my parents told me about a new Gaucher medicine that would help me, and that some people had already started taking it. The year was 1993. My parents felt very fortunate to be living in Canada and confident that my health would improve. June 27th, 1994, regarding Emma Rooney. This child was reviewed recently by a committee established to assess the eligibility of patients with Gaucher disease for reimbursement by the Ministry of Health for treatment by enzyme replacement therapy. The committee agreed that Emma would likely become a candidate for enzyme replacement therapy sometime within the next several months. However, at present, on the basis of criteria established over a year ago to help with this type of decision, she would not be considered eligible for reimbursement for enzyme replacement therapy. Whew. Not considered eligible is all my parents read. How long would we have to wait to get the medicine? I continued living my life, being active and pushing my limits. Sometimes my mom would call the doctor in a panic when the bone pain got stronger. It felt like a heart attack in my bones after too much Highland dancing. 2 years passed and I was finally approved for treatment. Then on December 3rd, 1996, at the age of 13, I started enzyme replacement therapy. As always, my mom was at my side for my first infusion at the hospital. I wasn't afraid. We'd waited a long time for this opportunity. Once the medicine started flowing, I pictured it traveling throughout my body, making me well. Receiving the infusions became a routine, and eventually we did them at home. Soon I learned how to mix the medicine and access my portacath on my own. Having a view of the garden made me feel peaceful. Over time, I noticed my body responding to the treatment, and bit by bit, I started to feel the difference it made to be well. Every year on my birthday, a bunch of flowers arrive to remind me of the love that surrounds me, starting from the day I was born.